Greetings! Mantare79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be making one for is the standard formats: Brandt Gates, Blitz CEO, Welstra. Alright then, let's get started. First off, the ride deck. So first off, we start off with the ride deck. For the cards in this ride deck, we have the Grade 0, Blitz Mechanic Wharton, starting unit. The Grade 1, the Blitz Programmer Strazer. Grade 2, Blitz Technology Researcher, Uber. And the Grade 3, Blitz CEO, Welstra. The starting unit, Grade 0, Blitz Mechanic Wharton. His skill is, when this unit is ridden on top of, if you went second, draw a card. So if you're the second to go in the game and if you ride on top of him, you draw a card. Pretty much a standard skill for the starting units of the D standard format Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. So next up, the Grade 1, Blitz Programmer Strazer. His skill is auto. When ridden on top of, search your deck or hand for up to one Grade 1 product card and put into your order zone. If you search from your deck, shuffle your deck. If you put from your hand, draw a card. So for Strazer, just by riding him onto your Vanguard, you can secure a Grade 1 product onto your order zone to use for your later game strategies. The Grade 2, Blitz Technology Researcher Uber. His skills are, the first skill, action, as a Vanguard, once per turn. Cost, Soul Blast 1, if the cost has been paid. Choose a product from your order zone and operate it. And the second skill of Uber, auto, when ridden on top of, put a product card from your order zone into the drop zone, then search your deck or hand for up to one Grade 2 product card, put it into your order zone. If you search from your deck, shuffle your deck. If you put from your hand, draw a card. So for Uber, his first skill lets you operate a product card from your order zone just by Soul Blasting 1, which works well with the Grade 1 Blitz Programmer Strazer skill, since riding on top of him gets you a Grade 1 product out from your hand or deck, so you'll be able to always have the opportunity to use the first skill of Uber. And the second skill, just by riding on top of him, you get to replace your order card from the order zone with one Grade 2 product from either your hand or deck, thus allowing you to continue building up to your main strategy for the Welstra decks. The Grade 3, Blitz CEO, Welstra, the main Grade 3 to ride in this deck. His skills are, the first skill, auto, as a Vanguard. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, choose one of your products in your order zone and operate it. And the second skill, auto, as a Vanguard. When one of your products is operated, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So for Welstra, his skills are pretty powerful. For the first skill, just by attacking, you get to operate one of your product orders in the order zone for almost no cost. And the second skill of Welstra, every time a product is operated, you get to add 5,000 power to your Vanguard. And the best part about this second skill, it's stackable. So if you're able to operate a product on your order zone multiple times in the same turn, you can keep stacking the 5,000 power to your Welstra, making a more powerful Vanguard to attack with. And with that, we just about finished explaining the ride deck. So next, let's get on to the main deck. And now for the Grade 1 lineup. For the Grade 1s of this deck, we have 3 Detonation Monster, Bauble Mine. 3 Blitz Mechanic, Start. 2 Blitz Mechanic, Iskra. 4 Planet Wall Dragon. And 2 Incandescent Flame Cannon, Apostle. The Great One, Detonation Monster, Bobble Mine. Its skill is Auto as a rear guard. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If your order zone has a set order, put this unit into your soul. If the cost has been paid, you may countercharge 1. So for Bobble Mine, it's a pretty standard but very powerful support card for the Brandt Gate decks. Just by boosting an attack, regardless of hits or not, as long as you don't mind giving him up in your rear guard, you can countercharge 1. So for Bobble Mine, he's a good way to not only refund your counter blast, but to also stock up your soul for soul blast later on. The Great One, Blitz Mechanic, start. His skill is action as a rear guard. If your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, counterblast 1 and put a heavy strike cannon, fortress, Freischütz from your order zone into your drop zone and retire this unit. If the cost has been paid, you may choose up to 1 mobile fortress of obliteration, Freischütz maximum from your hand and place it in the order zone. So for start, it's mainly a support card to make sure you can get a Freischütz maximum onto your order zone as long as you can meet the card's more or less specific requirements. The Great One, Blitz Mechanic, Iskra. Her skill is action as a rear guard. If you did not operate a card this turn, counterblast 1 and rest this unit. If the cost has been paid, choose a product card in your order zone and operate it. So for Iskra, she's a good way to let you operate your order zone product cards by just counterblasting and resting her. So she's more or less one of the main support cards for the Welstra deck. The Great One, Planet Wall Dragon, Sentinel, Perfect Guard. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, he features the same skill and activation. Just by placing him on the Guardian Circle, discard 1 card from your hand and the attack is blocked. But he also features another ability, unique to the Perfect Guards of the D-Standard format. When used to guard with, if you have 1 or less cards in hand, you won't have to pay the usual discard 1 hand cost, making him a no-cost Perfect Guard. So overall, it's a very powerful Perfect Guard to have in your D-Standard format decks. And finally, the Great One, Set Order, Incandescent Flame Cannon, Apostle. Its skill is Auto, operate from the order zone. When this card is operated, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. If you did not retire, draw a card, and then choose a card from your hand to discard it. So for Apostle, it's one of the main product orders to play in this Welstra deck. Just by operating him, you can retire your opponent's front row rear guard, and if he does nothing to retire in the front row, you can instead draw a card and discard 1. So regardless if your opponent calls a rear guard to the front row or he does not call, he still suffers from a negative effect that benefits you in the game. And with that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 1 lineup. Next, let's get on to the Grade 2 lineup. And now for the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2s of this deck, we have 4. Blitz Engineer, Hofleo. 3. Blitz Secretary, Perf. And 3. Heavy Strike Cannon Fortress, Freischütz. The Grade 2, Blitz Engineer Hofleo. Its skill is, the first skill, Auto. When placed on the rearguard circle, if you did not operate a product this turn, you may counterblast 1 and soul blast 1. If the cost is paid, choose a product card in your order zone and operate it. Activate its operate ability. And the second skill, continuous as a rear guard. During your turn, if you operated a product this turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So for Hofleo, it's a support card for the Welstra decks, mainly focusing on letting you operate your product orders in the order zone just by being called onto the rearguard circle. If you have not yet operated, if you're willing to pay the cost of Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, you can operate a product order and the second skill. Despite only having 8,000 power, which is somewhat weaker than the average amount of power that a Grade 2 has in the D-Standard format, his skill more or less makes up for it. Just by making sure you operate during that turn, Hofleo can serve as a 13,000 point attacker all by himself from the front row. The Grade 2, Blitz Secretary Perf. Her skill is Auto, when placed on the rearguard circle, counterblast 1 and put a grade 2 or greater set order from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck and draw a card. So for Perf, she's a good way to not only restock your deck with grade 2 or higher set orders like the Freischütz or Freischütz Maximum, but she lets you draw a card for it, allowing you to increase your hand size and give you more options. A pretty good support card for the Welstra decks. The grade 2 set order, Heavy Strike Cannon Fortress Freischütz. Its skill is, first skill, auto, operate from the order zone. When this card is operated, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. If you did not retire, choose one of your opponent's vanguards and it gets minus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. And the second skill of Freischütz, auto from the order zone, when your grade 3 or greater vanguard is placed by riding from a grade 3 cost, put this card from your order zone into the drop zone, then search your deck or hand for up to 1 Mobile Fortress of Obliteration, Freischütz Maximum, and put it into your order zone. If you search from your deck, shuffle your deck. If you put from your hand, draw a card. So for Freischütz, is one of the main orders to play in this Welstra deck. For his first skill, just by operating it, you can retire an opponent's rear guard. And in the possible event that your opponent has no rear guards when you operate this card, instead your opponent loses 5,000 power. So either way, if they choose to avoid putting any rear guards in their front row, or if they do leave a front row in the rear guard, they still end up suffering a negative effect. And the second skill of Freischütz, just by riding a grade 3 or higher on top of grade 3, like for example, you Persona ride Welstra on top of Welstra, you can retire Freischütz from your order zone and deploy Freischütz Maximum from your deck or hand to the order zone, thus allowing you to further go to the main strategy of the Welstra decks. And with that, just about explain the deck's grade 2 lineup. Next, let's get on to the grade 3 lineup. And now for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3s of this deck, we have 3 Blitz CEO Welstras and 3 Mobile Fortress of Obliteration Freischütz Maximum. So for the grade 3 Blitz CEO Welstra, we already more or less explained his skill and card effects during the ride deck part of this video, so let's skip ahead to the other grade 3 of this deck. Mobile Fortress of Obliteration, Freischütz Maximum. Its skills are, first skill, continuous. You cannot play this card and operate, auto, order zone. When this card is operated, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. Choose one of your opponent's vanguards and it gets power minus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. And then counterblast 1 and return a rear guard to your hand. If the cost has been paid, you may call this card as a 23,000 power, 1 critical normal unit to an open rearguard circle as stand. If you called a card, put that unit in the order zone until the end of the turn. So for Freischütz Maximum, he's the main grade 3 normal order to play in this deck. But just by operating him, you can reduce your opponent's vanguard power by 5,000 power and retire one of their rear guards. And the best part is, by playing a counterblast 1 and giving up a rear guard, he can serve as a 23,000 power attacker on his own from the front row. And then at the end of the turn, he goes back to the order zone, so you won't have to worry about your opponent retiring it during their turn. So overall, the Freischütz Maximum is the must-have card for the Blitz CEO Welstra decks. And with that just about explains the deck's grade 3 lineup. Next, let's get on to the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers of this deck, we have 1 Star Dragon Deed of Infinitude, Elder Breath, Overtrigger. 4 Patrol Robo, Decker Cops, critical triggers. 3 Aurora Battle Princess, Loris Yellow, critical triggers. 4 Ameliorate Connectors, draw triggers. 2. Whistling Arrow of Recursion, Oblitoid, heal triggers. And finally, 2. Lady Healer of the Creaking World, heal triggers. The Great Zero, Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude, Elder Breath, Over Trigger. The Over Trigger for the Brandt Gate Nation. Its skill is additional effect, double the power and critical of all of your front row units until the end of the turn. So for Elder Breath, he's like any other Over Trigger in the D standard format. When revealed during a drive check or a damage check, you get 100 million power and draw a card. But his main effect is activated in the drive check during your turn. Just by revealing him in your Vanguard's drive check, your Vanguard and Rear Guard in the front row get double power and critical, making this a good card to increase your chances of finishing off your opponent with a powerful barrage of nearly unstoppable attacks. The Great Zero, Patrol Robo Decor Cop, critical trigger. Its skill is, as a rear guard, at the end of the battle this unit boosted, put it into your soul. If the cost has been paid, choose one of your units and it gets plus 2,000 power until the end of the turn. So for Decor Cop, he's a good way to restock your soul for Soul Blast, but also to give your remaining attackers on your field a slight boost of power. Overall, a pretty good critical trigger to have for the Brandt Gate decks. The Great Zero, Ameliorate Connector, draw trigger. Its skill is, on the Guardian Circle, when used to guard against your opponent when their Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets plus 5,000 shield. So just by guarding with him after your opponent rides to grade 3, Ameliorate Connector can serve as a 10,000 point shield all by himself. So a pretty handy card to have. The Great Zero, Whistling Arrow of Recursion, Obaful, heal trigger. Its skill is, when placed on the Guardian Circle, if the attacking unit's critical is 2 or greater, and its critical was increased by a non-trigger effect ability, or its original critical is 2 or greater, this unit's shield gets plus 15,000 power until the end of the battle. So for Obaful, by guarding against a unit whose critical is more than 1, and if the critical was increased by a skill or card effect, not by trigger or base critical, then Obaful can serve as a 25,000 point shield all by himself. The Great Zero, Lady Healer of the Creaking World, heal trigger. Her skill is, when placed on the Guardian Circle, if your opponent's attacking unit has attacked 2 or more times this turn, this unit gets plus 15,000 shield until the end of the battle. So for Creaking World, she's a good counter heal to use against opponents who like to restand their rear guards after attacking or restand their vanguards. For if the attacking unit is in its second battle or higher, Creaking World can serve as a 25,000 point shield all by herself. And so with that's the trigger lineup of this deck. For the trigger lineup of this deck, we're playing 1 over trigger, 7 critical triggers, 4 draw triggers, and 4 heal triggers. And with that, just about finished explaining the deck's trigger lineup. Now let's get on to the deck's main playstyle. And now, after having just explained the deck's build and card effects, let's get on to the deck's main playstyle. So for the main playstyle of this deck, first you just normally ride the ride line from grade 0 to 3, all while using your ride line skills to deploy the product cards from to the order zone. And then, as soon as possible, try to secure a grade 3 flight shirts maximum to your order zone, either by using Blitz Mechanic Start skill or Persona riding Blitz CEO Welstra to secure the grade 3 flight shirts maximum to your order zone. And then once you've done so, when it's time before to go to the battle phase, try to secure either a Blitz Engineer Hofleo or a Blitz Mechanic Iskra, and use either one of their skills to operate your grade 3 Freshest Maximum skill to retire your opponent's rear guard and to also weaken their Vanguard's power by minus 5,000. Then when it's time to go to the battle phase, attack with 1 unit on your field first, then attack with Welstra, using his skill to operate Freischutz Maximum, retiring another rearguard on your opponent's field and reducing their Vanguard's power by 5,000. Then use Freischutz Maximum's other skill to replace a rearguard on your field with Freischutz Maximum and securing him as a front row attacker. And then just barrage your opponent with tons of attacks after their Vanguard has been weakened by 10,000 power. So yep, that's pretty much the main playstyle of this deck. First, you ride all the way up until Blitz CEO Welstra, and more or less work up your Blitz, your Freischutz order, the Apostle order into your order zone. Then when it's time to, then as soon as possible, try to get Freischutz Maximum to your order zone, either by using Start or Welstra. And then before you go to the battle phase, try to make sure you secure at least one Iskra or one Hofleo to use their skills to operate Maximum during the main phase, weakening your opponent's Vanguard's power. Then during the battle phase, just attack with one rearguard first, then attack with your Vanguard second, using its skill to operate Freischutz Maximum again, retiring your opponent's rearguards, weakening their power further, and then replacing the already attacked rearguard with Freischutz Maximum, and weakening the opponent's Vanguard's power and getting yourself more powerful attacks to work with. So again, ride your right line normally, then deploy Freischutz Maximum as soon as possible, have either Hofleo or Iskra ready to use their skills in the main phase, attack with one rearguard first, then attack with Welstra, operate, then Superior Call Maximum, and then just continue with your attacks. So right line, deploy orders, Freischutz Maximum, use 2 operate skills to weaken your opponent's Vanguard power by 10,000, and then cleverly deploy your attacks in proper order to have at least 4 attacks in one turn, each with a much better chance to hit the opponent since their Vanguard's power is weakened. So yep, that's about it. That's the deck's main playstyle. And now, after having just explained the deck's build, card effects, and main playstyle, first up I want to say thank you to all the viewers for watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show support by liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all soon.